Hey, yo, what up? I'm Josh Martinez of Z100, New York's number one hit music station, and the Superstar Crossover Podcast with my guest, Tony Kahn. What's going on, man?
Hey, a lot. It's great to see you. And we got a huge Wednesday night Dynamite tonight. And I'm very excited to be back here with you, Josh, talking about AEW. And thanks for having me on.
Sure. Big world heavyweight title eliminator match, MJF and Brody. Talk a little bit about that match and how it could kind of set up a huge show that you have in Australia following that.
Well, we've got a huge match tonight with MJF, the world champion, taking on Brody King. Brody King's been a multiple time world champion in AEW in tag teams and trios, but now Brody King's got an opportunity to become the world champion in AEW. If he can beat MJF tonight, he will get a guaranteed shot at the title coming up. And tonight, that is a huge match as part of a huge lineup on Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS and on HBO Max, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight.
The AEW World Championship picture recently has had a lot of twists since I would say this summer. What's your creative philosophy when building those type of storylines? Because we also have, Hangman and Swerve and Kenny Omega that want the title, but now Brody's kind of in line to potentially get a title shot with one win. From a creative standpoint, how do you put that all together?
Well, I think we've got a great group of wrestlers that are all chasing the championship right now. There's so many exciting things happening in AEW. Just since the last time I saw you in recent months, the AEW championship, there are a lot of exciting challengers chasing the title. In addition to this eliminator match with MJF and Brody King, we've got big matches coming up tonight, including the former world champion Hangman Page taking on Mark Davis. And we've got Kenny Omega, another great former world champion in AEW, taking on Andrade El Idolo. And that's a huge match. We've never had that on AEW Dynamite before. And certainly those are two of our top stars. Kenny Omega, who's been here since day one, who's wrestling at his very best right now, and Andrade El Idolo, who's better than I've ever seen him before and has recently returned to AEW. What a huge match on Wednesday Night Dynamite tonight.
You also have Ricochet defending the national championship, and that's a title that could actually be defended kind of in other independents around the world, really. What was the mindset when putting together the national championship with the mindset of, hey, this person's going to be able to go out and rep AEW for all of these other companies?
Well, that is really the goal for AEW, is to go out around the world. I say that I really believe AEW is where the best wrestle, and we try to emphasize that, but also demonstrate it by having our top stars travel the world of wrestling. And in this case, with the national championship, I thought it would be a great opportunity to showcase AEW and the great wrestling we put on every Wednesday night on TBS and HBO Max around the country, around the continent, around the world. And certainly some of the different independents, but also wrestling in promotions like CMLL, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ricochet's gone all over and defended that championship. And it's great to have a championship with that kind of an emphasis, not only matches in AEW, but outside AEW. And a lot of the other AEW championships also have been defended or put at stake in other promotions, including the International Championship. And we've had great women's matches with some of the women traveling and defending titles all over the world. So in this case, I thought this would be an exciting new championship. And I think that Ricochet versus Jungle Jack Perry has become a really heated rivalry recently in AEW. And I think that's going to be a fantastic match on the show tonight as well. We've got big, high stakes matches on the show tonight and a lot of exciting rivalries. Big things have been happening around the championships with the women and men in AEW since the last time I saw you. I know that the Continental Classic, I thought, was one of the greatest wrestling tournaments I've ever seen. In my opinion, maybe the best wrestling tournament I've ever witnessed. And Jon Moxley won the tournament. It was a fantastic event. There were matches across AEW Dynamite and Collision. And then it culminated at AEW World's End with Jon Moxley winning in the finals against Kazuchika Okada. The first time Mox and Okada had ever locked up, these two great champions, two of my favorite wrestlers ever. They'd never wrestled before. Very fitting that they would meet in the finals and that Mox would get to end Okada's dominant run as the Continental champ in the finals. But also, I thought that the semifinal match, Mox versus Kyle Fletcher, was one of the best matches I've ever seen. And it's just all opinions. Wrestling is all really about fans reacting and trying to get as many fans reacting to one thing or one show or one company as much as possible throughout the year. And for me personally, that match really resonated with me, Mox versus Kyle Fletcher. I was not only that weekend of World's End at the AEW pay-per-view, but also the Jaguars had a game at Indianapolis. So I went from the pay-per-view event around Chicago and then red-eyed to Indianapolis, which is not a bad trip. And by the time I got in after the media conference after the AEW World's End pay-per-view, by the time I was checking into my hotel in Indianapolis, it was like 6:30 in the morning, and the coaches were getting up for breakfast. And I said, I'll see you guys in a few hours at the stadium. And I laid down for a little bit, took a shower, head back to the stadium. And that was a big weekend for the Jaguars. And then going back home, the very first thing I went and did when I got home after the game was put Mox versus Kyle Fletcher on again, because it was one of those matches that I think will really stand the test of time. And two wrestlers in different points in their career. Kyle Fletcher, I think, has such a bright future. And Jon Moxley, I believe, has a bright future, but also at the present, he is the Continental champion, and he has held a set of championships and has a set of credentials unlike anyone else ever in the sport of wrestling. The only man ever to hold the AEW World Championship, the WWE World Championship, and New Japan's IWGP World Championship is Jon Moxley. It's possible he'll go down as the only person ever to do that. And certainly Mox winning the Continental Classic was one of the real highlights of 2025, which I think was a great, great year for AEW. And hopefully we're off to a great start in 2026 with this big show tonight.
So one title you didn't mention, TNT Championship. Tommaso Ciampa debuted Wednesday, won it Saturday. So the moniker is Psycho Killer. What's something that stood out with Tommaso Ciampa when you first thought about bringing him into All Elite Wrestling?
I think that AEW is where the best wrestle, and Tommaso Ciampa is a fantastic wrestler. And our fans like to see the very best wrestling against the very best. And so Tommaso Ciampa is somebody that can come into AEW immediately. Now he's the TNT champion. It reflects very well on AEW and our media partners to have such a fantastic wrestler with his credentials coming into the AEW company. Also, he has a great history in Ring of Honor. So even though he had never been in AEW, he's a big part of the history of the Ring of Honor promotion. And as the owner of ROH, having one of the legends coming back and somebody that has great accomplishments and been a champion in ROH, now a champion in AEW as well. Going on that impressive list of people that have held both the ROH TV championship and the TNT championship now. And I think that as a TNT champion or in any role in AEW, the most important thing, and when we bring somebody in like a Tommaso Ciampa, is, are you a wrestler? Are you a great wrestler? Is there a place for you here where you can really add to the AEW roster and set up great matches for the future? And Tommaso Ciampa fits that really to a T, literally. And I think that he will be a great addition for us. And now I'm very excited that he's the TNT champion in AEW also.
So someone came in, Tommaso Ciampa, but also someone went out in Powerhouse, Will Hobbs. How do you reflect on his time in All Elite Wrestling?
Well, I think Powerhouse Hobbs had a great run here in AEW. He started wrestling here in Jacksonville, where I am now, and had some great matches and became a champion in AEW. We were just talking about the TNT champion. He's a former TNT champion, former World Trios champion, and this run here, and I'll always wish him all the best.
So as stars continue to rise in AEW with names like Kyle Fletcher and people that are coming in like Tommaso Ciampa, how do you evaluate kind of new stars on the rise and where to place them? Is that something that is solely on you? Is this something that you have a small inner circle where you could talk to a handful of people to figure out where certain people land? How does that work
The most
with people on the company?
important thing I think is the fans. I really care what the fans think. So to your question, I think it's a great thought. I have to make decisions and make calls, but I also really try to stay in touch with the fans and listen to what they want to hear. I think if you ask 1,000 wrestling fans to name their top 30 wrestlers, you'd probably get 999 different answers, maybe 1,000 different answers. And that demonstrates how many great wrestlers there are in the world and how much great wrestling there is every week. Wrestling goes 52 weeks a year. So I think watching lots of wrestling and staying in touch with the wrestling all around the world and the opinions of the fans is very, very important because the fans give us their feedback every week in the arena and with watching the show. And I think it gives us great data points. And also, as a wrestling fan, I love wrestling and I love to stay in touch with what the fans are enjoying and also what I like to see. And the most important thing, I think, is what all the fans as an aggregate want to see. So even if you ask 1,000 wrestling fans, again, to name their top 30 wrestlers, you might get 999 different top 30s, maybe 1,000 different variations on the top 30, but there's going to be some common things that you can look at, trends, and look at who the most frequently named people are, just as one example. And I think that if you really look at AEW, there's so many great wrestlers, and whether it's the people that have been here since day one or people that have joined us along the way, I think that we had a great 2025, and it involved so many different women and men, including a lot of the new faces that have come in. And we have this great group of wrestlers that have been here now going on 7 years. That's pretty impressive. It's one thing to look at AEW from 7 years ago and say there have been changes, but for a sports team or any league to have the consistency and say there's been these people that have been really steadfast and have been a big part of this for the better part of 7 years from the start to now, that's pretty amazing. And any team in any league, there's going to be changes and new faces coming in as you go on year to year to year. But I think right now we have such a fantastic group of wrestlers in AEW.
So the last time we spoke actually was leading into kind of John Cena's retirement, and I asked you about your opinion on his legacy. Someone else who has a rich history in pro wrestling also recently retired, allegedly. AJ Styles. As a fan, what are your thoughts on AJ Styles as a performer, a wrestler, and across the board?
I think that AJ Styles is absolutely a fantastic wrestler. He's one of my favorites, and I think he's had an amazing career all over the world. He's never been in AEW before, but he has wrestled in Ring of Honor. And in Ring of Honor, he had some fantastic matches. And also, as a fan, some of my favorite stuff is when AJ Styles was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He had fantastic matches there. His match with Minoru Suzuki is one of my personal favorites. And he had a great alliance with the Bullet Club at that time. And there were some really, really great AJ Styles matches over the years all over the world. But absolutely some of my personal favorite stuff would have been in New Japan Pro Wrestling with him. And he's somebody who's had a great career in so many different companies around the world. And certainly I consider him to be one of the all-time greats.
So you mentioned the seven years of AEW. Considering the growth in streaming and distribution, how do you see the company's footprint expanding over the next few years beyond Amazon and even HBO Max?
Well, we've got a great partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery. We've been on TNT since the very beginning and TBS now for so many years. And we're on every Wednesday on TBS and every Saturday on TNT. That's been consistent for years. Last year in 2025, we added HBO Max, and it became the first time that we've ever streamed the shows, simulcast the AEW events. That's put AEW in so many new homes. It's helped us make new fans. And now we have our pay-per-view events on HBO Max Live as well. That's just in recent months. And we've seen great growth from HBO Max. The last pay-per-view we did, the most recent show, AEW World's End, is the most pay-per-views we've sold yet on HBO Max, which is really exciting. To see that and see that it's growing as a pay-per-view platform and now as a home for all the AEW shows, that's really cool. But we also have this great base and this great tradition. When I had the thought to start AEW, a big reason I believed in this is bringing wrestling back to TNT and TBS. There's a great tradition of wrestling on TNT and TBS. We have our shows every Saturday on TNT, and there's been a history of wrestling that goes back on TNT to 1995, over 30 years, and a history of wrestling on TBS that goes back to 1971. That is a very rich history dating back over 55 years. And now in that incredible history of wrestling, with numerous promotions that have had wrestling events on the Superstation TBS and TNT, AEW Dynamite, Wednesday Night Dynamite, has become the longest running primetime pro wrestling show ever on TBS and TNT. And we built that great partnerships, and it continues to be the engine that powers AEW worldwide. We are on great partners worldwide, but the TBS TNT relationship has been there since day one. You can count on every Wednesday night, like tonight, to get a great Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS, and to get every Saturday really exciting collisions like we saw with the new TNT champion crown this past Saturday live on TNT. Every Saturday on TNT. Now HBO Max is a great opportunity for us, and we've been able to keep a great audience on TBS and TNT, and also build a new audience on HBO Max. That's huge for us, and that really, again, is the lifeblood of the company, the HBO Max, TBS, TNT relationships.
So final question. I recently got HBO Max, mainly, for AEW. A lot of the pay-per-views are on demand. I found myself just going down the rabbit hole of all these great matches in AEW history on pay-per-view. Aside from what you mentioned before with Kyle Fletcher and Jon Moxley, is there a match or a moment that you go back to, whether it is on HBO Max or maybe you're just on social media and it randomly pops up on your algorithm and you have to watch it every single time because it gives you goosebumps? Is there a moment that comes to mind for you?
Yes. AEW All In Texas this past year, that show I thought was so tremendous, top to bottom. It had one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen with Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland versus the Young Bucks, and incredible matches. I worked on the Casino Gauntlet matches, great Casino Gauntlet match. MJF, not the nicest guy, but a deserving winner, and Athena winning the Women's Casino Gauntlet match, which I really enjoyed working on with them. And then Timeless Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné. What a fantastic match. Two of the greatest wrestlers in the world in such a high stakes matchup. To have Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada finally go one-on-one in an AEW ring. That was incredible. And the culmination, Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page. What a match. What a huge pay-per-view show. And I really enjoyed All In Texas. It's the most tickets we ever sold for any AEW show ever in our history in North America. And we'll be going back to where we sold the most tickets in AEW history. I have this plaque here from Live Nation that it was a gift from Live Nation for selling over 80,000 tickets to AEW All In London. And we'll be going back to London. And I'm very excited about that. Announcements coming soon about the on sale for tickets going on sale, because we'll be back in August where we set the world record here. We had the most tickets anyone's ever sold for any pro wrestling show. So we got a great All In Texas this past year. I think could be my favorite AEW show ever. And certainly our greatest accomplishment when it comes to live events is what we did at Wembley Stadium for All In London. So I'm very excited about that also coming up.
So AEW Dynamite tonight, TBS, 8 o'clock. Tony Khan, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh.